Hello, friends. It is Sunday, and I had planned to do like quite a light-hearted-ish video, but no, I've got too many things to say, so we'll only get to the light-hearted stuff when I feel like I've said everything I need to say. I've had a few conversations now with businesses around taking meaningful action to address the inequalities that as Black people we live and breathe every day. Some of them have been like strictly business conversations, some of them have just been conversations. But there is creeping in a concern about how far these businesses take it. I don't mean the grand gestures that they put in their press statements or, there's like a page on their website. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about how they revamp their culture to support this. I do believe to a point there is a general consensus that doing the right thing, and fighting racial injustice and to a point tackling systemic racism is important here. But the problem is when you get to the top of the triangle, it's the directors, it's the senior leadership team. And the reason why that's an issue is because there are many, many businesses who not just about this, but a lot of poor behaviours, where you've got directors who are bullies, directors who have continuously made people feel afraid, have made them cry, have made them feel like that big, and have taken pride almost in that because they are in positions of power and influence. So the problem is that there are many individuals who work at that level, whether in HR or you're a director or you recognise it in your colleagues. There are people that you sit next to, that you, metaphorically speaking, that you spend time with. You know exactly what they're like. You've probably had the informal complaints about them. You've probably dealt with the formal complaints about them. You probably know some of the things that they say in meetings and put on email that are bang out of order, but they're still in your business. So, what we're having here is very, very senior people who are now a little bit worried. Because let's be honest, when there is poor behaviour at a director level, the only time there is any consequence of that behaviour is when it is so out of order that the businesses are worried about other people finding out. So they're worried about the shareholders, they're worried about the press getting hold of it. So they're worried about the reputational damage, the it's going to damage the brand. Or the chairperson or the non-executive directors have spoken up. I believe it happens in some instances, but they've spoken up and said this is not on. I'm not sure how often that happens, but anyway. Because we know that a lot of that behaviour runs rampant. And we know this because when you look at um, all of the CEOs in take it the last year, who have fallen from grace, as I like to call it, most of the time they were publicly outed and they had to resign or whatever else it is because somebody internally who was not another leadership person blew the whistle. So that behaviour that all of these, whether they're CEOs or whether they're other senior directors or people in your senior leadership team, they don't even need to sit on the board. 9 times out of 10, we are well aware of their unpleasant parts of their personality, but we choose to turn a blind eye. So in terms of bringing it back to this, what that means is there are many business leaders who are now worried, not because, like some people will say, oh no, because they're worried about doing the wrong thing. No, listen, they're not worried about that. Like, because they'll hire a D&I person, or they'll make it the remit of the HR director to go and fix that. They're not worried about that. What they're worried about is their colleagues, people that report into them, who might not be on board, but quote unquote, I can't afford to sack everybody. So, because they're feeling a discomfort about actually having to put in some consequence of people who are not on the same page, that is driving a reluctance to do anything meaningful within their business. I'm not saying that they're not going to do it. What I'm going to say is it's going to take time, and there will be lots and lots of conversations had behind closed doors that aren't talking about the things that you think they're talking about because they're talking about this. They'll be saying things like how far do we want to take this? Because we've got to decide as a business how far we're going to take it. Are we going to have zero tolerance policies? Are we going to start policing people around what they think, not what they do? Now, my answer to that is, to some extent, people can think what they think. Like, you know what? You're absolutely right. You can't police what people think, but you can police what they do. You can police the behaviours. You can decide to deal with complaints seriously. You can decide not to turn a blind eye when you see anyone in your business, but particularly people in leadership roles, act in any way that is contrary to the values that you publicly declare. You can call people out in meetings. You can call people out when they send inappropriate emails. You can call people out when there is a list of colleagues, of people who have made complaints about somebody's behaviour, who've been left crying, or who are fearful to go in for meetings, or where other people have actually seen them bully other colleagues and nobody's done anything. Because there are no real secrets. Everyone thinks, like, in the business world that, people generally don't know stuff. They know stuff. They know stuff. So this is why I don't buy this whole piece about you can't say anything anymore, and oh, I was only joking. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it when. Did I really mention the Ku Klux Klan in that? Oh, I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. I didn't mean it. Like banter, jokes. Why are we always so quick to tell people that they are too sensitive? Well, it was just a joke. So criticize them for taking offense to the offensive. Like, I've never understood that. And it's rife within business, rife. That's why I have such an issue with this whole thing about, oh, we don't want to police, we can't be seen to take it too far. We don't want to be too politically correct. We don't want to, be, thinking that we have to police people's thoughts and all the rest of it. That's why I have such a big issue with that. Because too often, awful, disgraceful things that have been said, behaviours, etc., are brushed off as jokes. And when you do that as a business, you are protecting a group of individuals. And guess what? It's never the black people. It's never the brown people. It's never the people of the LGBTQ plus community. It's never the disabled people. You're always protecting said director, said senior leader, said manager, because they're really good at their job. Like, how often have we heard that bullshit? Like, treating people fairly is separate to being good at your job. Like, because somebody brings in lots of money into your business, that is, it makes their behavior acceptable because they're good at their job. Like, we've heard it in so many different instances, not even just about this particular subject, but it's all part and parcel of the same thing. So when you hold the line by allowing that and using that as an argument, whether it's vocal or just like behind closed doors, what are we going to do if, we can't police thought, and we can't. Listen, I'm not focused on what you can't do. I want to know what you can do. And you've got to decide as a business, do you either make it easy for your leaders, your peers, to surf beneath the surface with all of this? Because don't forget, apathy and non-action is action in itself. There will be people in businesses, I promise you, who are not bought into all of this. They will say that they tolerate it. So they're not going to do anything to progressively affect change. And they might say, well, I'm not going to do anything to stop you. But in doing nothing, they are stopping progress too. So inaction is an action, is what I'm saying. So I can make it really easy for them to carry on floating there. And the way to do that is not to do anything as a business meaningful, really, because they then get to carry on saying the things that they carry on. The also way to make it easy for them is to carry on saying things like, we're not very politically correct around here. Because when people say that, what they mean is anything goes. So I recognise, or I might recognise, we have a culture in a business for crossing over the line. But if you want to join our business, the psychological contract between us is you have to toughen up, which means we can treat you any which way we like. We can say things any which way we like, and you can't complain. Because we already told you at the beginning that we're very politically incorrect here. Because we all like jokes, we all like a banter, because the world has gone far too serious. Can't say anything these days for somebody complaining. That's the sort of stuff that you hear. So those people who use that as a catch-all phrase, that's what you're saying. And what you're also doing is giving a blanket excuse for any poor behaviour in your business. Because what you're saying is, we're not going to take any care with you or your feelings. We potentially might not treat you fairly, but you can't say anything because we've already told you we're a bit rough around the edges. So that's how you can make it easy for those individuals who believe that and who use that as an excuse to be able to treat people any which way that they like. And also those same individuals that believe that because of their positions within the business, they are untouchable. Make it easy for them and just don't do anything meaningful. That's how you make it easy. And by making it easy, what you're doing is protecting them. If you want to make it more difficult, do what I've been doing. Be consistent. There's some people who hoped by now, Shireen, bloody gonna shut up, right? Who really disagree with what I'm talking about, really disagree with what I'm pushing, and I guess because I'm so like direct in what I think should or shouldn't happen. But if I only said it once or twice, they'll bite their lip because they think I'll go away. Because every single day I'm showing up. If I'm not doing a video, like I'm mentioning something about it somewhere in the digisphere. So they can't help themselves. That's why I keep getting attacked by all these trolls and stuff. That's why. Because just by the fact I keep talking about it, they're like, I can't help myself. Now I've got to say what I'm really going to say. It's the same thing in your business. If you want behavior change, if you want the real behavior change, you've got to be consistent and there's got to be consequence. And if you want to make it difficult, put in meaningful things that will affect change. Make all your leadership team accountable for addressing systemic inequalities within your business, whether it's for Black people or whether it's for anybody else for that matter, but particularly for Black people right now. Think about your zero tolerance approach. Hold everyone to the same standard. Don't pick and choose how you are going to uphold those values according to the perpetrator's position in your business. Because the reality is, we all know the more senior you are, the more protected you are. So it's one rule for you and another rule for everybody else. But we cannot affect change if people who are racist, prejudiced, who find it quite easy to discriminate against people, or, because that's like the extreme, or They are anti putting in measures to address any of those things. They are anti following fair processes. They are anti not calling up their mates or people in their network to go and hire in the talent. They will go through the correct ways of hiring in talent in the business. If they are anti any of these things, if they are anti having unconscious bias training, and let's remember, the purpose behind unconscious bias training is not to make the unconscious conscious. It's to show people this is the biases that we all have. Therefore, this is why, as a business, we put in this, this, and this, and this. That's how you use unconscious bias training, not to fix people. So it is not a solution. It is not an end goal. It's a different way of raising awareness so people can understand shit. Like, that's why they do this. That's why actually refer a friend might not be a good thing to do as a business. That's why, you know, it might be not a good idea to hire the board based on who, just ring around a few people. So carry on protecting those individuals, but know that that says a lot about you as a business, and know that doing nothing says a lot about you as a business. Now, on the flip side, because there will be people who are thinking, no, I don't want to protect anybody. Jesus, I don't want to do. Right. Make it difficult then. And the way to make it difficult, like I said, is to keep showing up every single day, is to tie everything that you're trying to do and put them on the hook for it. Link it to their performance objectives. If you must use financial compensation as a way to incentivize the right behaviors, separate conversation, don't tie it to that. Don't just give them targets, because you know how I feel about quotas. But what I think can affect the biggest amount of change? And that's when we see behaviours in business that are contrary to the public values, we pull up on those behaviours, because people will soon learn. Your actions in this speak a lot louder than words. Your inaction is also an act in itself. So you've got a choice now between protecting those who you kind of suspect, like you kind of know who might not be on the, yeah, you know, or you make it difficult. And I know, like, listening to me, you're thinking, bloody hell, it's like, damned if you do and damned if you don't. Well, do you know what? Change is uncomfortable. Change does mean that you've got to do things that are unpalatable. But bigger than Black Lives Matter, bigger than racial inequalities within businesses, bigger than systemic racism within businesses, is the fact that people are not held to account for poor behaviour. That's where a lot of this stuff comes out. And they're also not only not held account to poor behaviour, senior leaders are not on board with putting in the fail safes needed to protect businesses from the consequences of that poor behaviour. So that's the stuff we need to start getting into. Again, this is what I mean by digging in the roots, not shaking the tree and rustling the leaves. So I think that's enough for like a Sunday. Should have given some people plenty to think about, but I keep saying it. I'm not playing. I'm not playing with this, because this is what we need to be talking about. These are the conversations that you need to be having on your board about affecting real change. And it's going to be uncomfortable. And maybe as a business, you need to start thinking about those who you already know, because their past behavior has already let you know that they won't be on the same page as this. And you can choose, either give them a free pass, wipe the slate clean, let's all start again, or they're not for your business. You've got to make that call.